Green space is a massive asset, and most of the time it ends up being treated more like a liability. In DC, we're the greenest city in North America, but we're not using that green space to help our kids, our families, our communities.
Urban gardening and urban farming is still a new, it's still a new thing to a lot of people. And while there are amazing urban agriculture programs across the country and across the world, some cities are a little more behind than others. And just some people in general are just still a little scared of growing food in the city and still want to buy their food at the grocery store.
Really, that's the easiest way to sell the idea of being green is honestly you can save money.
And events like this are really great because they're more like an educational event to let you know that if we work together, there are things that we can do.
Sustainability is becoming critical in urban life. Healthy communities are a result of socially responsible practices and a better awareness of the environmental impact one makes. Living in an energy-efficient way, using local goods and services, and minimizing pollution are individual actions that can work for the greater good.
Well, the idea was to create a green immersion concept, so groups from all different aspects pertaining to energy and environment would come, create their, or contribute their image or vision in a display board poster or through speaking or through bringing their products to the event. And the individuals that were participating would then be able to peruse all of the exhibits, the tables, listen to the speeches, and sort of get a more holistic view about what the whole green concept is, how that might impact their life, and how possibly they could start adjusting and becoming familiar with, the green movement. Which is, there's sort of a huge disconnect between the policymakers and the eco-elite and the general populace. So this was sort of a way to socially bridge that disconnect and bring it down to the ground level, the grassroots level. And I believe that actually quite a few people did feel that they learned quite a bit from the different groups that were there.
Well, my main thing is how people can apply renewable energy to their life right now. They've got to get out there and as we say in ACOR, move it into the mainstream. One of our concepts is ReNow, renewable energy now. And we encourage people to bring renewable energy into their lives right now, on a personal scale, on a nationwide scale, and on a global scale. And events like this are really great because they're more like an educational event to let you know that if we work together, there are things that we can do. Renewable energy is not scary, and it should be more of a commonplace word. And the messaging that's out there right now is, oh, well, we better stick with oil and gas because that's what we know, and that's Mr. Faithful, and that's what we need to do because this renewable energy stuff, I mean, how real is it? So go online and look at the real websites that are telling you this stuff, like acor.org, like the Alliance to Save Energy, like OWEA, the Wind Association, like SEIA, the Solar Association. Go to those websites and they have a listing of all the places that you can go to install renewable energy in your life and all the quick tips that you can use to become more green.
There's no other organization in the DC area that's really focusing on helping you as individuals to reduce your carbon footprint in any respect possible. There's organizations out there focusing on solar, on green buildings, but no one's thinking about what can you do in your own life in a whole spectrum. So if you come and join CarbonFree DC, it's totally free. All the workshops are totally free, and we will expose you to all the options out there and give you all the resources you need to reduce your carbon footprint and save a lot of cash in the process. Well, one thing is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a huge thing that if you take some minor changes in your lifestyle and just a few really affordable things that you install in your household, you can save a lot of money. So really that's the easiest way to sell the idea of being green is honestly you can save money. And people have this kind of icky feeling like, oh, if I be green, that I'm going to have to put out a lot more money. It's really time intensive. And it's really not the case. If you install some CFL light bulbs, if you put a blanket on your water heater, you're going to save a lot of cash, and that's going to start tomorrow. So a lot of individuals can take that action. They're not sure how to do that. They're not comfortable doing that themselves. And so once you give them a little bit of information, then they can really take that and make a big impact for the planet and also for the pocketbook.
We were able to give funds to 2 green groups who have been involved in the city for a good number of years, most of them just greening or planting gardens, but recently focused on creating urban vegetable gardens for low and moderate income families and individuals to work on and also to benefit from the produce. So that was our sort of a very focused idea, and we actually didn't know the groups initially, but through just surfing through their website, speaking to people, these were the two that came to our attention.
It's amazing how far Parks and People has come. What started as out of tragedy and as a simple dream to clean up one park has become a citywide alliance of community park partnerships that's transforming forgotten, underserved neighborhoods all over the city. And we've become a model for park partnerships around the country and around the world. There's a massive worldwide urban parks movement, which I actually help to chair now. And Parks and People is playing a huge role in that. We're working to show how parks can advance job training, advance health, counter obesity, ground education, build community, empower folks to counter injustice. This was the worst part of the worst park in DC. It was filled with over 10,000 hypodermic needles. There were crime analyses done that showed that this was worse than any other part of this whole area. And this whole park was the most forgotten park in the city. And we were able to come in here and transform it into the Marvin Gaye Amphitheater. It's just been a dramatic turnaround ever since. We worked with kids in the neighborhood to turn a heroin market into a farm market, which is kind of phenomenal. But the most important accolades we get are from folks in the community who come in and say thank you. And they often have tears in their eyes. They can't believe that the kind of green space they've only seen in the movies can be something for their children and for their grandchildren. And so that's really the thanks that we seek, and those are the most important accolades. Green space is a massive asset, and most of the time it ends up being treated more like a liability. In DC, we're the greenest city in North America, but we're not using that green space to help our kids, our families, our communities. And it turns out that green space can be an economic asset. It can be a massive base of jobs, of enterprise, of investment. When the president talks about green jobs, he's often talking about green buildings and green energy, but green space itself, we found, can be a direct gateway to 50 different professional career tracks. When people think about parks and jobs, they often think about mowing, trash pickup, and pruning. But there's so much more to it. There's landscape architecture and green infrastructure, engineering, and using parks for expeditionary learning and gang intervention and low-impact development. There's so many possibilities. Green energy is the fastest growing industry in the world. Parks can be key to that in building energy-efficient, self-sufficient communities. It's a whole different approach to jobs. Instead of looking just to big utilities as the center of the action, now an energy-efficient economy depends upon self-sufficient, self-reliant communities, which is what this Village Green movement is all about.
Common Good City Farm is in our third season, but this is the first season at this site here in LaDroit Park. We spent 2 summers as the 7th Street Garden in the Shaw neighborhood at 7th and P. And we knew that that was a temporary site because the owner of the property was going to build on top of it. And so after our second season, we put out to all our constituents around the city that we needed new land. And this site where we're at now is an old elementary school that closed last June when the city closed 26 schools. Urban gardening and urban farming is still a new, it's still a new thing to a lot of people. And while there are amazing urban agriculture programs across the country and across the world, some cities are a little more behind than others. And just some people in general are just still a little scared of growing food in the city and still want to buy their food at the grocery store. And it's just a little bit more of what people are used to. So we had so much community support that we were not, it wasn't easy, but we were able to get the support of the mayor's office as well so that we could be here. DC is one of those cities that has been a little bit behind the times with things like urban agriculture and sort of bike movements and some of the things like that. We try not to preach at all. We kind of practice. We kind of teach by doing. So we have public workshops that are free, and in hopes that people will come and people will learn why things like this are important and get on board on their own. When people are on the farm, both kids and adults, we do try to have people taste the food that's here and realize that it's okay to eat. It usually tastes better, and that's an easy convincer. So just being here and doing what we do is the biggest thing that teaches people that it's okay, and that maybe they want to do it themselves in their own home too. One of the most important thing I think that happens here at Common Good City Farm is that we have adults and children of so generation gaps are being bridged, and people are meeting their neighbors, and both classes are mixed and races are mixed, and it just doesn't matter when you come to a place like this when we're all about food. And we're all about being outside and using our body and being healthy and eating healthy and helping keep our city beautiful and knowing our neighbor so that our city is also safer.
My stage name is the Climate Change Prophet. Constantly talk about the same topic, because I'm the climate change prophet. A hole in the ozone is forming. Can you feel the planet warming? Soon I will be storming Capitol Hill, urging Blue Dog Democrats to pass Henry Waxman's bill. Overcome the claims that it's bad for business. If we fail to act, you shall witness the worst Wall Street crash of all time. There's no room for small minds like the Conservative Club for Growth. They isolate the economy from the environment when we must consider both. We can't sustain long-term growth if we destroy the planet. What must I do to get some people to understand this? There's nothing more conservative than conservation. Until I'm gone, I'll be...